You ever been so sick of your DM's bull honky that you just want to, beat the breakfast out of them? Well, I can't help you there, but I have a new class that you can flatten your DM's monsters with instead. That's okay, right? Yeah, it's a tie. It's better. Nice and calm. No calm, only fury. Kill. Punch! Greetings, traveller! My name is Ellis Miller, and I'm a master of dungeons, maker of homebrew, and the inventor of the Incarnate. After releasing the Malefactor, I've heard some pretty nice things about it, and I let you guys know that it actually wasn't my first class that I ever made. I released the Malefactor first because it was the latest class with the most experience behind it, and it adhered nicely to the 5e design. But the Incarnate was the idea that I had to fulfill the wants of a bunch of players. I've seen so many players say that there really isn't a brute class. Now, I'm aware that you can play brutishly, the term brute isn't defined to a class. But what people meant was, there isn't really a class that lets you play the Hulk sort of character. Huge guy needing only their fists and could keep up with the guy casting Meteor Swarm, or the guy that wields short swords and can slash 7 times in 6 seconds. Now, to clarify this, I am fully aware that the Monk holds its ground as a fist-fighting class that even has some anime tropes infused into it, like at one point you can go Super Saiyan with a certain subclass. And the Barbarian is probably the closest thing to a brute. It's a big, brainless, meat-headed tank that just doesn't die because it's that angry. But this was kind of the issue. The Barbarian has been revised by a bunch of people in their own homebrew because it's kind of just a guy with loads of health and not that many cool things it can do with damage or its abilities. And people would look at the monk and think, yeah, I want to be a strength-based monk. Someone who's got gleaming muscle, hardly any clothes, but is just beating the crap out of people. But they would find it's way better to be a dex monk, so I just switch it and say, don't worry, where it says dex, just switch that to strength and be done with it. But within the class, even the actual abilities feel more like a monk. WotC did a great job with the monk because it feels like a monk. The lore and the mechanics marry very well. So players would sit with their homebrewed strength-based monk and say, okay, well yeah, my criminal pit fighter guy is all strong now, but he gets slow fall, stillness of mind, purity of body, tongue of the sun and moon, timeless body. It's not meant to be a brutish guy, and yes, you could still play that way and bend backwards trying to flavour everything. Or you can play this. So, the Incarnate. The Incarnate is a brute whose biology is infused with great supernatural power. And from your source of strange power, your body has been empowered and changed so you can become a monster on the battlefield. The idea is that they don't hit as often as martial classes, most of these guys hitting only once per turn like a rogue, but with their single strike, they can hit like a truck. Also, I will point out, I've called this guy powerful, but it's not so powerful that it makes the other classes useless, pick up a sword and shield and make the fighter cry, but it's also not so powerful that it's blatantly unbalanced. The idea is, imagine if you were so powerful that you could just punch someone 10 feet into the air with an uppercut. Your first thought would not be, I need to train with a sword so I can defend myself, because this isn't enough. Your character will most likely have a lack of martial discipline, because they normally just punch drunkards out of the tavern door after one punch in a brawl. The reason you are this brute is because your biology has been altered by magic or something stranger. Gameplay-wise, they are without a doubt a tanky DPS character. They can wear light armour and wield some simple weapons, but their main deal is that they can just run up to an enemy and smash them around the battlefield with just their fists. You slowly grow in power, and without modification, your punches can be as powerful as getting hit 3 times with a greatsword. There are 5 subclasses of Incarnate that all give you the freedom of choosing where your power comes from. Each subclass gives you a bunch of weird abilities that make you faster, deadlier, and fill a certain niche in what role you play in combat. At first level, you get the meat and potatoes of your class. Your destructive strikes deal a d6 of damage, but unlike monks, your big boom punch can't be followed up with another one. But if you are unsatisfied with that damage at first level, then for now, you can hold 2 hand axes and use 2-weapon fighting, or pick up a great club and smash. Also at first level, you get the feature known as Invincible Body. Now, before you pick up your pitchforks, your invincible body doesn't literally make you invincible. I haven't gone completely mad. Instead, it's to describe how unbelievably sturdy you are. With this, you get invincibility dice, and you get as many dice as your level. These dice can be added to your melee attacks once you hit, and as you level up, they can do more cool things to do with your subclass. I really wanted to evoke the fantasy of a character who is so tough that messing with them is a painful endeavour in itself. So, when someone misses you with an attack, you can regain a die, or you can make the creature take damage. Because you know how missing something's AC just means you don't deal damage? Whether that means the target ducked out the way or your weapon just bounced off their armour? Well, the image I like to imagine is that you are so hardened that when something tries to strike you, they hurt their fists when they do so. Regarding your AC, I mentioned that you can use light armour, so unless you choose Dex, your AC will be super low with that leather 11 plus Dex mod. Well, you can choose not to wear armour and your AC equals 11 plus Dex mod or Con modifier. And this is one of the first signs that your con is important in this class. I always wanted to make a class where the constitution actually factored into more than just your HP and con saves. And this is that class. Your AC and powers get better and your saving throws get better depending on your constitution modifier. What's saving throws? Well, at second level you get another signature ability that lets you diversify your little meathead. Your manifestations. The term manifestations has been mentioned across the game's history. But your manifestations are physical representations of your power's origin and how it manifests itself. You can flavour that they are like mutations, or perhaps they are a result of dense magics within you, changing you even further. With powers such as being able to knock people prone, do more damage, uppercut people, get better senses or rolls on certain skills, and many more, you can really diversify how you build your character. You can make a character who chooses manifestations purely to help you get better chances with ability checks.
I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better! I am better!
Or you could do what a playtester did and just go hard into the abilities that allow you to run around flooring people. Then at level 3, your power comes through in full force and the true nature of your power is revealed. The origin of your grand power shines through as you choose your dawning incarnation. There are 5 subclasses to choose from, and they let you play a person imbued with the power of some of the coolest beings that you normally just have to fight. Aberrant Incarnation lets you play a being twisted by alien biology spanning from dark magics or dark experiments. With this, you can be a lurking monster who strikes from the shadows. Do you want to play the alien from Alien? Here you go. Colossus Incarnation gives you elemental power that lets you morph the battlefield with manifestations that are unique to your subclass that let you mimic spells and do a bunch of AoE crowd control. Fiendish Incarnation lets you play a full-on DPS filled with the rage of hell itself, slowly transforming you into Hell Incarnate. Radiant Incarnation is the complete opposite and lets you combine your brawn with the brilliance of the heavens. Your angelic form can use weapons and armour, and heal and support your allies. And the Reanimated Incarnation fills you with the necromantic powers of undeath. You can summon a spirit to fight alongside you, drain health, and do some range if you want. The design of this class was that your character changes dramatically based on their subclass. Some classes do the opposite on purpose, like regardless of what subclass you pick, you're still a guy that can cast 9th level spells as a cleric or a wizard, and your subclass stuff lets you do some other things, little benefits to flavour you a little. But with this class, your power's origin dramatically changes your powers, and combined with your manifestations, you have so many choices to choose from to make a character as customizable as a warlock. Your subclass grants you abilities at 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th, 14th, 17th, and 20th level. Level 3 diversifies each subclass. Level 5 gives you a unique variation on the extra attack feature. Level 7 gives you a subclass specific movement buff. Level 10 gives you a cool subclass ability again. Level 14 gives you a subclass specific immunity. Level 17 gives you a final subclass ability before Level 20 lets you take on a paladin style final form. Not wanting to take away from the paladin, but I felt like this class it made complete sense to have a final form transformation. Aberrant Incarnation lets you dash around, climbing walls like a Spider-Man with your creepy set tools, and you can expend invincibility die to add it to your AC when you're attacked. So it's like casting the shield spell if you were unable to predict if you would get 6 AC from it or 1 AC from casting it. I said that your subclass gives you a unique variation on extra attack at level 5? Well, the Aberrants always deal an extra 1d6 damage. This makes them very rogue-like if the rogue was cursed by an eldritch nightmare. At later levels, you're faster, you can turn invisible, you're immune to psychic damage, because you've looked at your own ugly mug enough that you've built up an immunity. You deal more damage against surprise targets, and then you can turn into a cosmic horror that can drive people insane. This takes the framework of a class who can deal a bunch of damage and turn it into a super deadly stealthy creature of the night, or a big ball of eldritch grotesquerie and body horror. Colossus Incarnates get their power from the primordial titans of your world, whether that means their power comes from the hulking frames of giants or the elemental beasts that are dragons. People always associate dragon stuff with just being tougher, but People rarely touch upon the fact that dragons are just beings that harness a breath of elemental power, and their frames are so powerful that they can resist that damage. So, whether your power comes from a fire giant or a frost giant, or a red dragon or a white dragon, you can harness the elements and those creatures' sizes to be a being of overflowing energy. You can increase your size by one size category for now, and as you level up, your size gets bigger and bigger until you can become a gargantuan creature. And as previously mentioned, you get primordial manifestations, which can make your punches do unique secondary abilities if they're imbued with a certain element, or be able to cast specific elemental spells, like Fireball, or some that can aid your allies resist the elements or change how the enemies have to move in order to not get poisoned. Your punches can deal elemental damage, and if the aberrant could gain an extra d6, you can add your con modifier to your punches. So, if you had 20 strength and 20 con, you'd get a plus 10 to your attacks. As you level up, you can disregard difficult terrain, be immune to a chosen elemental damage type, and become a wall that can defend your allies. And then you become a titan with far-reaching punches that can target multiple people in a 10-foot cube. If size matters to you, then this subclass has a great mix of DPS and crowd control, and is a lot of fun to just take a Mega Mushroom and stomp around the battlefield. Fiendish Incarnates can turn into a titan or a cosmic horror, but your frame is barely able to contain the ferocity of hell itself. This subclass makes your pretty hardy character into a near unstoppable force, as you can nullify crits, spend invincibility dice to reduce the damage taken, and you get a blazing aura which hurts enemies nearby. Your level 5 buff lets you attack a second time and apply invincibility dice to both attacks, meaning you're going to be dealing a ton of damage. As you level up, you can leap around the battlefield like an imp from Doom. You can focus all your fury into hitting one creature. You gain immunity to fire damage, you are too angry to die, and you become a Duke of Hell, who cannot be stunned, who emits a harsher aura of fire, and you can use strength and con for saves instead of charisma and dex. In testing, this one felt like a brute. Vice the Beast felt as though they were a destructive force on the battlefield. From hell to heaven, Radiant Incarnation is less faithful priest and more warrior angel. You get medium armor and martial weapon proficiencies, you can reduce the damage that your allies take, give off an aura that gives an AC boost, and you can extend a 30-foot cleansing chain that grants a default bonus to rolls like Bless to allies, or a default penalty to rolls like Bane to your enemies. What's good about the cleansing chain is that it works similar to how Compel Jewel and Witch Bolt work. As in, if the creature moves away from you, then they lose the negative effect. Meaning that creatures will want to stay 30 feet away from you if they want to be free of this penalty. It's not literally keeping the enemies away, but you almost exude a 30-foot aura of you don't want this. Your extra attack thing is extra attack with your martial weapons. If you look at this class numerically like I did, then this means that the damage should be nearly the same with the weapons being just a bit less. But let's not forget that you're proficient in martial weapons. So, you can more effectively wield the magic items like Flame Tongue or one of the cool magic items within this class guide. Your angelic movement buff is not flying like an angel, but instead walking on water. So you can't be fly, but you can be like a G6. I mean, Jesus! Then, your cleansing chain and AC boosting aura get better, you gain immunity to radiant damage, you gain a flying speed eventually, and you become a demigod where all your buffing abilities reach their final form, and your weapons deal extra radiant damage passively. This means that you can be a really cool warrior whilst you get some useful buffing abilities. And reanimated incarnates give me an avenue to work undeath into everything. Your body contains a well of necromantic power that lets you conjure a spirit to double team the enemy. When you hit and deal more damage with your invincible body, you gain a vampiric drain-like touch that you can siphon health with. Your level 5 attack is a ranged bolt of necrosis that deals the same damage as your punches, and can be increased with your invincibility dice. You can then walk through walls, gain a more powerful spirit to fight alongside you, you gain immunity to necrotic damage, and you can make your spirit take hits for you and explode and stun people when it dies. Then you reach your final form as a Grave Walker. You're resistant to weapon damage, you can lessen healing around you as you dampen life itself, and you can frighten creatures with your swoopiness to deal more damage against them. Then of course at level 4 you gain your ability score improvements. Then, as you level up even further, you become adaptive and gain another saving throw proficiency. as you've conditioned your body or mind to resist harmful effects. And later, you simply can't be frightened, as you are filled with the confidence in your own power. Your punches can then half speed, impose disadvantage on attacks, and remove an attack from a creature whenever you crit with your strikes. Then, to help with that, the guy who is all about damage and wrecking stuff gets to crit on a 19 and a 20. And of course, as you level up, you gain abilities based around being able to regain your invincibility dice quicker, so you can keep doing damage and keep using your manifestations. So, from level 1 to 20, your class grants you abilities to keep you fighting, while your subclass grants you a suite of differing, unique abilities. Even this class is obviously a DPS, has some thoughtful design baked into it. For example, you know how when you play a monk, you want to make Dex your best stat, but you also want to make Wisdom your second best stat? And that leaves the rest with just the scraps. I mean, a player at my table ran into this very problem. He was fast, he was agile, and he could stun people left and right, but this meant that his health was so low that he kept getting crushed. Well, with this class, you have two stats that you need to keep in mind. One being strength or dexterity for your punches, and then the other one is your con. But unlike Paladin or Ranger, where you need to choose a fighting stat and a stat that makes your spell saves better, in this case, the stat that makes your saves better is your con, because your power comes from within, so your health won't get left behind. So while the class doesn't gain an ability that explicitly increases your health, it knows your health will just be better because it's already a main stat. Also, even if you choose the Colossus subclass and choose to cast spells, you will only have a couple, so the class is generally really simple to play. I mean, we all know how Fireball and Entangle works, right? So, the class will be really simple to play while being able to do damage, stay alive without any class buffs to HP, and be really useful with your manifestations. I mean, I told you about the guy in playtesting. Well, he played a Tiefling Fiendish Incarnate, and he was thrilled with the choices of manifestations. It was his favourite part about the class. He chose the ones where you can push and knock people prone, and he punched a creature and pushed them into the range of the rogue, whose turn it was next, catching this enemy in a pinball machine of pain. People have wanted to play a brute, and I 100% think that this invokes that fantasy. You will feel like an ungodly powerhouse who is still balanced with the rest of the party. Also, this class provides a ton of role-playing opportunities. 5 subclasses with different origins of your power, and it's not like this one needs to be pushed too hard to fit into your game. We already have sorcerers that have an intrinsic power to cast spells. Well, if you think the sorcerer is a bit meh, like a lot of the community does, then you could try being someone who has the power but doesn't get spells unless they cast Punch. You could be an adventurer because society does not welcome you due to your strange appearance. Or you could just look down at yourself and think, well, when you're given this kind of gift, let's not waste it by becoming a cobbler. Perhaps you are a folk hero after you saved a town from bandits. Well, it was more like you just stood there and they kept punching you and injuring themselves doing so. But hey, regardless, that little bit of fame gave you the taste of glory that you could gain by saving the world. How did you gain the strength of a huge primordial being? Did you drink an entish brew? Did you have an ancestor that made peace with the giants, and now you have received that bloodline's boon for that kindness? Or were you just born too close to a dragon's lair? What about the aberrant? Are you the result of being corrupted with a parasite like in Parasite, where you experimented on, or were you subjected to a venom-like alien? Or, more terrifyingly, are you actually just an alien who is taking the form of a humanoid, body snatcher style? The Aberrant might be one of my favourites, simply because if you want to play something fiendish, or giant-themed, radiant, or undeadish, then there is a race out there, but there are no aberration races, so you can unleash your inner freak with this subclass and play the thing from the thing. Then the Radiant, Reanimated and Fiend have a bunch of potential. ASMRs, Tieflings and Dampiers already exist, so I can imagine you can spin some awesome backstories that I would love to hear. With that, I would like to thank the amazing artists I contribute to this PDF and making it look as snazzy as it does. Ben Arnold for the amazing cover art. Look at it, it's so cool. Showing our Incarnate reaping the hellish flame around them and striking up towards a mean old Satan boy. Michaela Kami, or Kami, I will never learn, returns with the great magic item art within. Ilham Zaka returns with such an amazing depiction of this buff boy with his fist emanating with energy. And Teresa Kalachi returns with her making of the page backgrounds. You will most likely see Teresa's work in all of my products. She's more than just a beast with Photoshop, she is a master of all mediums and even puts on fun gaming streams that I sometimes appear in, so check her out. Links to all these guys are in the credits of the PDF and in the description below. Check them out, and I sincerely hope that doing this gets you guys the attention that you deserve, because you all are amazing. The design for this class was all carried out by me, and I have now released 2 out of my 6 class ideas, and now I'm scratching my head on what to release next. The Spiritualist makes me giddy and I want to play one every time I read what they can do. The Adept, who would be released alongside a system and feat for being a weapons expert. The Summoner, to show off my unique take on a class who constantly brings their own backup to fight alongside. Or the Concord, so everyone can play the Friendship class. These classes and all their work and design are ready to be formatted and illustrated, but of course, because these projects are just me and a bunch of freelancers making the art I want, these things take time since I don't have a colossal following or a Patreon. If you would like to see what I make next and when I release one of my other classes, then I would recommend you subscribe and follow my socials, calling everything Dungeon Bits. Oh yeah, and remember to check out the DMs Guild for the Malefactor and the Incarnate. And remember, the suit doesn't make the man. It's not how you look, it's what's on the inside that counts. Especially when what's on the inside is an erupting wellspring of destructive power! Grab the Incarnate now and destroy all in your path! Bye-bye.
One punch, one shot will